In this video, we're reviewing your gameplay. I have 5 specific clips to show you that we'll be breaking down to help you improve at Destiny PvP. This one is all about playmaking and using the info that you have around you to make the right plays. By applying these tips, you'll be able to collect more kills and stay alive longer. This will ultimately make you more useful for your team and help you win more games. By the way, I'm specifically looking for mistakes here that are good teaching points. We've all done these things before, but it's helpful to see them in other players' gameplay so you can try to identify them and avoid making the same mistakes in your games. Okay, so clip number 1 here is from Shadow Ranger. I want to show you something that happens in this first gunfight. Now what I notice here is that his shots are just a little bit faster than he's able to actually track the target, and I did notice that he's shooting slightly slower than the maximum rate of fire of the gun, which is a good thing if you're getting comfortable with your aim, but in this case it seems like his aim can't quite keep up with the rate of fire that the gun's shooting, so I would recommend even slowing down just a little bit more until you can hit a higher percentage of those shots. Okay, next big learning point here. Let's see what happens.
Zone advantage is yours. 2 down.
Okay, so let's rewind this a little bit and take a closer look. So what happens here is that we're able to win this first Thorn fight after a couple of missed shots, luckily. And then we actually get another pretty quick kill with Thorn, which is nice. Now at this very moment here, we have something very important on the radar. We can see that we have red on the radar right here. And this is important to know because our loadout is Thorn and a sniper rifle, which is not a great situation to be in if you're going to be pushing close on this corner. So what you see the player do is he actually comes pretty close here and actually gets himself killed because he doesn't really have a shotgun or a good loadout to play that close quarter. Number 1, you could play closer to this wall so you at least have a little bit more range to take that fight. So what I would actually do instead is he's on a top tree Dawnblade, so he could actually Icarus Sash backwards, get out of there, create a little bit of space, and then potentially win this fight because he does have the Thorn perk enabled now for about 5 more seconds. And we lose the fight. Not a big deal, it's a good learning opportunity, but just something to point out that you want to be very conscious of your angles when you're playing closer like that, because if you don't have the right loadout, you're basically giving up a free kill. Okay, same clip here, and let's see what happens. So get a nice kill with our melee and grenade. Right here, we're going to take a sniper duel. And basically what happened here, let's back up just a little bit. If you're going to take a sniper duel like this, you need to be able to take that quick shot and then unpeek immediately so you get back behind cover. The higher you go up in the skill ladder, you just can't expose yourself to danger for this long or you're going to die 100% of the time. If you listen to a lot of really good players who play a lot of scrims and tournaments, like Wallow for example, they'll actually talk about sniping being more of a reactivity thing, where your goal is to basically take the quickest possible shot that you can and then get back to safety. The thing is, when you climb higher in the skill ladder, people just don't tend to miss that much, especially with how generous Destiny aim assist is, so you're better off just taking a quick shot and getting back to safety. Again, this is the type of thing that, especially in a mode like Trials of Osiris where your life is so important, if you're out there exposing yourself to danger for so long, you're probably going to pay for it. Remember also that anytime you're aiming down sights with a sniper rifle, you're showing off that red sniper glint so you can be really easily noticed by other players. It's going to draw a lot of attention to you, so you need to be very careful about when you peek. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe. We're getting really close to 100,000 subscribers, and I have a special present for you for a community thing once we get there. Also, if you want to have one of your clips reviewed for the next time we do this type of video, be sure to join our community Discord server at discord.gg/pattycakes.
3 minutes left.
Okay, we have clip number 2 from Idokal. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If not, let me know. This one really cracked me up because this is like the true embodiment of a hunter player. And I definitely do this kind of thing myself way too much, but basically the number 1 mistake that we'll see here is just jumping a little bit too much at kind of the wrong times. I don't know what it is exactly about hunter players, but I definitely notice this in myself and many hunter main friends. I think it might be the food we eat or something, but there's sort of an aversion to staying on the ground. You'll notice that hunters like to stay up in the air as much as possible, and that can actually be a very good thing, but it also can be a bad thing that leads to a lot of bad positioning, so it's something to pay attention to. Jumping in Destiny is all about knowing when to do it at the right times and avoiding jumps that put you in a bad position. So let's get into some specifics. Okay, so we get a really nice kill there on one player, then we turn around and we're jumping in midair. Now, here's the problem. Jumping can be really useful when you're trying to jump over a player to throw them off. For example, if you're jumping over someone in super close quarters so they have to spin their camera up and around to try to track you, that can be a really good use of jumping. Jumping over cover can be really useful so that someone can't hide behind cover because you just jump right over it and shoot them. But where you don't want to do it is when you're right out in the open. And the reason is that jumping makes you super predictable with your movement. So if you're on the ground, you have the ability to change your strafing pattern on a dime. I actually have a whole video about this that breaks down different strafing patterns, and I'll link it in the description for you to check out. In essence, the idea is that you want to become as unpredictable as possible, and the problem is when you jump in the air, you basically set yourself up in an arc pattern that you can change a little bit, but basically you're pretty predictable about how you'll come to the ground. If you're playing against maybe newer players who have a tough time tracking you vertically, this can give you an advantage, but against anyone who's pretty decent, and especially against better players, it's going to put you in a lot of trouble because they can change up their movement patterns while you're basically stuck on the same trajectory. One thing I'll say is that this player actually has a really good mechanics in terms of aiming. You can tell it's a pretty smart player overall. It's just a matter of kind of staying alive a little bit more when you're in those jumping scenarios that get you in trouble. So there's one jump right there. That would be kind of a risky one because you're out in the middle of nowhere. Now this play though, I don't know what the game plan is here. You're chasing down an Arc Strider who has the reflecting type of Arc Strider from Middle Tree. So best case scenario, you land a shot that he probably blocks. And realistically, the better thing to do there would be basically just to back up and use your distance to make a play. So the thing about Arc Strider is that Arc Strider moves very slowly. I play Arc Strider a lot, and one of the most frustrating things about it is that you can't catch up to people very easily because the neutral game of any of the three classes is fast enough to basically just get away. So you want to use that to your advantage and make distance so that player is going to run out of their super by the time they get to you, because then the player basically has two choices. They can either choose to run straight at you as fast as possible by not blocking, and that means that you're potentially going to be able to land a nice headshot on them, or alternatively they'll keep using their staff to keep blocking, but then since you've created some distance, you're plenty far away where they can't damage you and you can just wait for their super to run out by the time they get to you. Okay, next clip here is from Soviet Squidward. So I want to show this specifically off because this player has really good understanding of where to be pre-aiming, but the mechanical aim is just a little bit off and not able to land a shot. Let's slow that down just a little bit. As you can see, the aim is really close, but just a little bit off. This is where, in my opinion, some sort of aim training can really come in handy. Something that will allow you to hit those micro corrections just a little bit smoother and more consistently. So if you're on mouse and keyboard, for example, a good scenario to practice in an aim trainer like Kovacs would be 1 wall 4 target small voltaic or 6 sphere hip fire voltaic. These are both really good because they're going to help you make those micro corrections to land your crosshair perfectly on the target. If you're on controller, your options are a little bit more limited since aim training is kind of iffy if it's actually helpful or not. But what I would say is that anytime you can practice in a PvE area, like for example, I really like the starting zone in the EDZ, you can practice making those micro corrections just to perfectly hit a target and take your time with it, and over time you can get much faster at making those corrections to land your shots. Okay, so next up here we have a really good clip to demonstrate some things about positioning. The player right here has some important information on the radar. So we can see that we have red in the front left quadrant of the radar, and that means that there's going to be probably someone right outside of here or maybe upside here that we can't quite see. So we need to be aware that at any time that player could swing into this hallway and we're going to be potentially in a lot of trouble. Because the thing is, we're all by ourselves here and our closest teammates are not able to help us team shot. On the other hand, the enemy could have 2 or 3 teammates coming through this angle and potentially putting us in a lot of trouble. Let's see how it plays out. And we take a pretty easy death. So rewinding just a little bit to point out some extra details. So we're taking pot shots here at the player's feet, which is not a great idea, I think, because at most we're probably not going to really get to kill them unless they're already pretty hurt. And at the same time, like I said, there could be someone easily swinging into this hallway to come kill us, which at that point we'd have to reload and we're going to be in a really rough spot. And you can see exactly what happens. Now what I would be doing instead in this situation is probably just rotating completely out of this hallway. I don't think it's a great place to be hanging out unless you're with teammates. And what I would do instead is just to rotate all the way out and hold a different angle, or potentially go around the map if you really want to help that C point and maybe play from where your teammates are. And if you really need to hold this particular angle, the way you could do it is to play closer to the door so that if someone does start to push you, you have an easy escape route and you can get away. When we're pushed all the way deep into this hallway, It's very easy for an enemy to swing out and kill us before we can get back to cover. Okay, next clip here is from Dr. Sluggy PhD, which is an awesome name by the way. What I want to demonstrate in this one is having a really good understanding of the ranges of your loadout. This is Rumble gameplay, and that means basically at any time players could be surrounding you, so you need to have a really good understanding of your ranges and what weapon you have out at the time. Okay, so the first thing I want to show here is that the player goes down these stairs with a chaperone out. Now, the chaperone is kind of a sniper rifle, I will admit, but it doesn't have that much range. So if you're worried that someone's at the top of the stairs, you could have your chaperone out to check that angle and potentially get a kill if someone's within about 13 meters. But then if you don't see one, you need to back up and switch weapons and have your primary out so that you're able to take those longer engagements. This is something you'll actually see from quite a few newer players where they'll tend to have their special weapon out a little bit too often. And when you study most of the top players, you'll notice that they actually have their primary weapon out most of the time, and their special weapons out only really situationally when they need to have it for a particular encounter. Okay, next point here, we do get our super, which is the bottom tree golden gun, and that means that we only have 3 shots, so we gotta use them really carefully. You'll see the first shot we barely miss here, which is unfortunate. The player was about to die anyway, not much you can do there. But then on this next guy, we kind of rush 2 shots and end up getting nothing out of our super. At the end of the day, supers basically can win you entire games in Destiny, especially in stuff like Trials, so it's just super important to get something out of them when you pop them. Now, I've whiffed way more golden gun shots than I can possibly count, and so I know the feeling, but it's just important to pace your shots a little bit, especially with the bottom tree golden gun since you only get 3 shots to start with. On the top tree golden gun, you can afford to spam a little bit more since you get all 6 of those shots, and anytime you get a kill, it refunds one, but bottom tree, you gotta be really careful with how you shoot. I also want to point out here that Dr. Sluggy makes a crazy comeback here from about 13-19 all the way to 20-19. So really nice job here, some great primary and chaperone shots to take the W. So congrats on that. Okay, final clip here is from Taco Shells. Sorry, the quality is a little rough on this one, but I thought it was worth sharing because it had some really good gameplay. I don't have much bad to say about this one, it's really all positives, but I just wanted to show some really good examples of using the radar in your positioning to make some really solid plays. Let's play it out. So what I wanted to point out here is that a lot of players, after missing these sniper shots and then missing these hand cannon shots, would be really tempted to go chase those kills. And we see that this player actually does the exact opposite, which is playing cover, using the radar really wisely and letting the players come to them, which then you have a much better position and can make some good plays. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. These are pretty fun for me to make, so if you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs up and let me know by subscribing. And like I said, if you are interested in having your own gameplay reviewed, there's a link in the description to check out our community Discord server, and there's a gameplay review channel where you can post your own links and have either me or other players in the community give you some feedback. If you want to see another one like this, I'll also link the most recent episode of this series in the top right of your screen and also in the description.